Hello everyone, it's Pluto here. Welcome back to another video. And in this video, I'm going to be telling you about the secrets to deck building in Wizard101. This is specifically for PvE. Deck building in Wizard101 is super important. It is an essential aspect of the game. To do the fights in Wizard101 while questing, whether you're in Avalon, maybe you're in Walaru, or maybe you're in Krakatopia, you need to be able to build a deck. Now, building a deck is a lot harder and a lot more to do with math than it might seem. Many people think that, when you get a spell, let's just add a ton of it to my deck. Let me just add all of it. And some people do that, and maybe it'll work for them. Maybe it'll get you so far, but at some point, you need to definitely loosen up a little bit on your deck and try to only have spells that you need in there. And I'm going to come and tell you the secrets to deck building, and also just some tips and tricks to try and figure out how to make your deck personalized. So a lot of problems I have, especially when I'm doing team up in Wizard101, is you join team up and then everyone joins the fight, and this is a specific, maybe it's a cheating boss or maybe it's just a hard fight, and nobody in the fight has a feint. That's just something that's happened to everyone. No one in the fight has blades, or they say, oh no, I didn't pull my feint, or oh no, I didn't pull my blades. And that's a problem. To fix that and to remedy that, you need to learn how to deck build and efficiently deck build. There's not many videos on how to deck build in Wizard101, and I wanted to change that. I wanted to make a video that teaches that. So first and foremost, when you're building your deck in Wizard101, nobody should be paying attention to how many cards you can have. When you're a lower level, you'll have less cards in your deck. That's just a given. As you can see, you have less cards in your deck if you're a lower level, or if you have just a worse deck. If you have the best deck in the game, you'll have many cards in your deck. As you can see here, you will have many. However, that does not mean you need to fill your deck with all of these cards. No. The first thing you want to do when you're building a deck is these item cards down here, you want to get rid of them. Now, some of these you might actually want to keep. Maybe you want to keep blades, some of them eventually, but for the most part, get rid of these item cards. You're not going to need them. I'm never going to need this Seraph or this Goat Monk or this Life Fuel. I'm never going to need these Storm Fluxes ever, really. The second key to deck building is you want to keep your deck small. As you can see here, I only have 2 enchants, a Frenzy, the new spell Bunyip's Rage, Stormlord, a Blade, and Tempest. This is all I do. When I'm duoing, when I'm like team questing, this is all I pack. As if you'll notice, this is 7 cards right here. Just 7. If you didn't know, when you pull your first hand in Wizard101, you pull 7 cards. Exactly 7 cards. And this hand gets me through everything I need. Just 2 enchants, Frenzy, Bunyip's Rage, Stormlord, a Blade, and Tempest will get me through everything. Now, when you're in more levels, you might want to pack more, especially if you're soloing. You might want to pack a little bit more cards, and that's understandable. But you want to keep it at least within these first 2 rows. You don't want to go beyond that, because then you're kind of wasting deck space, and you might not pull what you need when you need it. Now, if you're doing a really hard boss fight solo, you might want to go past this 3rd row. You might need to pack more. There are certain boss fights where you might just need to pack more stuff to be able to kill, but for the most part, if you're soloing and you're doing easy fights, you want to have just these first 2 rows or less. The reason it's super important to have 7 is so that you pull these cards every single time. Let's say that I need to buff turn 1 to be able to kill, but I have like a bunch of Tempests in. Suddenly, I go into a fight, all I pull is Tempests, and I pull no enchants, right? Maybe let's say all I pull is all these Tempests, which are 6 Tempests, and I pull a Blade, right? Or maybe I pull 6 Tempests and a Stormlord, and I don't pull any enchants. That's a major issue when you're making your deck. You need to be able to pull your enchants, you need to be able to pull your hits, you need to be able to pull and you need to be able to pull a buff. That's something you should be able to pull every single time, and if you can't do it, then there's something wrong with your deck. A lot of people will have full decks, and then they won't be able to pull, and then they'll end up losing the fight, or it'll take excessively long. So this is the best support deck. The general guide for a support deck is this, and I'm going to go through it whenever I make my deck. The first thing you do, 2 enchants. Maybe 3. You can maybe add 3 if it's a harder fight, or 4 if it's a boss fight, a really hard boss fight. But again, rule of either 2 or 3 usually, unless it's a rare instance, then 4. 2 enchants is typically what I run. Then you want to use your 4-pip hit, which would be, for Storm's case, Tempest. Some schools will have 2 of these. Storm, specifically, I use just 1. Then you will have, if you are a max level, you will have your new spell. For me, it's Bunyip's Rage, which is the highest storm damage spell in the entire game. I use Bunyip's Rage all the time now. Before this update, you might have used something different. It could vary from school to school what this will be. I will go through the other deck setups in a moment. But for Storm, I use Tempest, Bunyip's Rage, 2 enchants. The next thing you want to pack is you want to pack a 7-pip AoE. For me, that's Stormlord. I pack that Stormlord every time. Then, if you're hitting school, or if you just... Usually, if you're hitting school or you're questing, you want to pack a Frenzy. Now, the reason I pack a Frenzy is because a lot of bosses I go against will have cheats that remove blades, and packing a Frenzy circumvents that because it's an aura. So usually I'll pack Frenzy, but if you're any other school, really, what you'd probably want to do is you'd probably want to pack Sharpened Blade, and you'd probably want to pack, if it's any other fight, you'd probably want to pack a Sharpened Blade, and you'd probably want to pack your school's blade, and for me, that's Storm. So this would be pretty much the perfect deck setup for me. I usually like to run, instead of having the Sharpened Blade, I usually like to run 2 buffs. It's to each their own, but as long as you have 7 cards in your hand, that should be good. Let's say you're doing complete support. Now, this really depends on the school, but for Storm, or if you're supporting an elemental school, I would say you want to use Elemental Blades. You want to have Elemental Blades. You'd want to have a Sharpened Blade with it as well. A Potent Trap, just 1 Potent Trap. 2 Feints, so you'd have this setup right here. And this is 6 cards. Now, the reason it's 6 cards is because I would say that a support should always have a hit as well. So a support should always have access to a hit. So I would say honestly you don't need both of these. I would say you need an enchant, and then whatever your school's hit is, let's say I'm going full support Storm, I would also pack a Tempest, just in case you need it. Right. Now again, you don't have to do this, but usually this is what I like to do for support. I usually like to have a Potent Trap, 2 Feints, Sharpened Blade, Alley Blade, or Spirit Blade, depending on which school you're supporting, and then an enchant and a Tempest. Now, if you didn't want to run an enchant or a Tempest, what you could do alternatively is, if you have the Dwarden's Havoc Hood, which I don't have on this wizard, but if you did have the Dwarden's Havoc Hood, you would run Mass Feint. Let's say the Star Blade here is Mass Feint. You would run Mass Feint with 7 cards, so that you always pull it. Now let's go to some other wizards here and show you what I believe their best decks to be like. Let's start with Life. Let's see what my support Life setup is on here. My support deck is literally this. It's very simple. I have an enchant, Sharpened Blade, Elemental Blade, and 2 Feints. Let's say you don't have Zan the Bandit, then I would pack Ratspin instead. It's super simple. You pack Ratspin, bada bing, bada boom, you get the job done. Right? But let's say I'm going full hitting. If I'm going full hitting, well, what I would pack now is, if I'm level 170, I would pack a Ratspin. I would pack a new spell, being Zan the Bandit, to use turn 1. I would pack 2 enchants. I would pack probably a Frenzy. I'd still pack Frenzy if I'm questing. If you're not questing, then I would pack the Blade. But if you are questing, pack the Frenzy. And then I would probably pack one of my 45 blades here, because my amulet, actually, it's not the best amulet at the moment, but, well, actually, the new amulets do give the 45 blades still, so you can still use the 45 blade, but this amulet gives me a 45 blade, and I would use the 45 as well, and that would bring you up to 6 cards exactly, and I would use... With that, I would also use a Forest Lord. So another thing you don't want to do is you want to avoid using these shadow AoEs. Now, these shadow AoEs used to be super good in every battle, but nowadays you can easily kill turn 1 with a team. Now, maybe you want to still pack these in case you're in a fight, and you're in a boss fight, maybe you need to do that extra damage, but really, you're never going to really use this over Forest Lord. You're always going to get Forest Lord turn 2, and you'd want to use that as soon as possible. This, you'd have to wait maybe, and it just becomes a waste of deck space the more you use it. Yeah, sometimes you might get a Shadow Pip, but other times you probably won't get one, and then what's the point of even having that in your deck, and it prevented you from pulling something really that you needed. Moving on to the next school, let's go to Fire. So Fire's deck is going to be a little bit different. It depends on what strat you're doing. If you're doing Scald Incendiate, definitely you would want to pack a stalled, but I don't do stalled in Cindy 8. Probably pack the Dragoon hits unless you want to have the new amulet, but either way, you pack the Dragoon hits. You wouldn't need Meteor Strike at this point. You actually would only need to have a buff, so I would pack Sharpened Blade and Fire Blade. I'd pack Sharpened Blade and Fire Blade here, and I would pack 2 Drag AoEs, and I would pack a Sunbird. So what this does for you is this would mean you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards in your deck. You might be able to pack one more. You might be able to pack like a Frenzy, and what this would mean is that not only do you pull your Fire Dragons turn 1, if let's say something goes wrong and it doesn't kill one, you can always Sunbird the next turn with an enchant. It's just very useful. It's very helpful to have that. So yeah, I hope that this video taught you how to deck build a little bit more in Wizard101. Some general tips: just keep your deck small. Don't fill your deck up with cards. Make sure that you have enough cards to be able to pull them when you need them. It really sucks when you're doing team up or you're trying to farm something and someone just doesn't have the cards that you need. That's happened to me constantly. And hopefully this video helped you. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'm going to see you all in the next video. Goodbye.